Good morning from New Zealand, or if you're in the US, good afternoon. Welcome to another Xero Developer Hangout. Myself, Ronan Quirk, Product Manager for the developer platform here at Xero. And Adam Moore beside me, our Product Owner for API. Hey, Adam. And we also got Sid on the line from San Francisco as well. He'll just give a wave now. You can see him in the bottom window there. There he is, looking well. Awesome. So today's developer hangout, we're going to blaze through quite a bit of content. Just in a second, we'll give a quick update on the what's new in add-on world and everything like that. Quite a few updates to give on that. And we'll also then cover what recent and upcoming API releases in the API world. Then I'll give you a quick update on what we talked about at a recent developer day in Sydney and XeroCon Australia as well. And if you do have any questions, if you can jump on the Hangout chat window just below, there's a comment field underneath this video. You can ask a question there, or tweet at Xero API. And Sid's going to be our sweeper today. He's going to be collating those questions, and we'll get to them at the end of this Hangout. So today's Hangout, as you saw, is going to last probably about just 40 minutes. So we'll blaze through the content as quickly as possible, but fire questions in as soon as you can think of them. So hey Sid, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys doing over there?
Awesome, awesome. All right, so lots been happening recently in add-on world, so I bet we better crack into it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a busy month with XeroCon over in Australia. But even with that event going on, we managed to post some solid results here as far as launching new add-ons. We've got 12 new ones that are listed on your screen here, so a big shout out to our new partners. Even one of them, Time Tracker by Ability. Those folks made it all the way over to Australia to launch their partnership as well. So they were really excited to be over there and mingling with the folks in Sydney.
Yeah. We got people from pretty much all around the world. We got Time Camp, who are based in Europe. We've got our friends at Ability, who are based in New York. We've got Australia there, UK as well. So brilliant global ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's I love seeing some of these ones in here, Ronan, that are very vertical focused. I see one that's there for winery, Vin. So for winery software, I think that's always interesting to see some of those verticals launching on the platform.
Awesome, cool. And speaking of launches, we did a launch of ourselves just recently, just this week. Want to tell us about that?
Yeah, this is something that I think not only are the add-on partners excited about this new marketplace that is a redesign of our add-on directory, but I know that our customers and our accountant partners and channel are really excited about being able to find the partners and the products that integrate with Xero so well, and being able to do a full search based on keywords and tags. Having industry verticals is a real big win, and this is definitely the first step to bigger and better things as far as discoverability for our partners.
Awesome. Yeah, so probably since it's live, probably the best way for anybody to check it out is just go to xero.com and /add-ons and check it out from there. But yeah, I guess one thing I'm really excited about is just it's pretty basic in this day and age, but keyword search is super useful for people. And so we've been doing a little bit of work in the background as well. So it's not just searching on just basic things like name as well, is it?
Yeah, no, it's in addition to the description and the name, we've got those keywords that are going to make it really useful for people who are searching for specific functionality inside of an application. And we even expanded our categories. We added a new financing category to make it easier for businesses looking for different ways to finance and find loans and lending to improve their cash flow.
Yeah, that's actually brings up a good point, Sid. There's been a couple of requests about sort of, should we have category X, category Y? And I think one of the things we've been thinking about is you want to try and keep the categories at a manageable level, so you don't have sort of an infinite list. And so when we got to a point where we had enough in the financing category, sort of to merit a financing, I think we've got five or six now. In the financing category, it was enough for us to merit its own category. So any of those kind of quite niche ones where you don't maybe fit into something perfectly, it's not always ideal. We're trying to balance out having like an infinite amount of categories with something that makes sense as well. So that's the discovery part. We've also been doing some work on product pages as well. Tell us about those, Sid.
Yeah, so this is brand new and I think is pretty exciting. These product pages are much more in depth as far as the type of content and the information, and this is all being surfaced from Xero's website, including screenshots of the partner applications, contact information, how your ratings and the feedback people are providing in reviewing your application, and also if you've won any awards at from Xero at a previous XeroCon, that'll be surfaced as well on these pages. This is something that we're launching slowly, so not everybody has one. We're starting off with 20 selected add-on partners for the initial rollout. This is really a learning period for us to figure out what sort of content we want to have on these pages, and we're going to roll this out for additional partners over the next 3 to 6 months. And I think the long-term goal is to make this a self-service portal for our partners to go in and add new content and update content as needed. Isn't that the plan, Ronan?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely the plan is to provide all our partners with a way to self-serve adding this content in, because just in that pilot program of just trying to put together initial 20, it was a lot of work to wrangle that content, videos, screenshots in the right dimensions and that kind of stuff. So we're taking all those learnings and just coming up with a really good partner portal now for that, to extend it to everybody, so we can manage that sort of hundreds and hundreds of listings. But it'll be really fantastic to have that information out there. So really, from our point of view, it'll allow people to find the right products faster. So within Xero.com, rather than having to go out to lots of different websites, find, jot down, compare, all that kind of stuff. But it really very much is a way of showcasing the content of our partners as well. So I guess one takeaway for you, if you're an add-on partner and you don't yet have a product page, do start looking at the fields and the content that we have up there, and start putting together maybe in a Google Doc or something like that, so that when we hit you up over the next couple of months for that content, that you have it ready. That really speeds things up, because a lot of the sort of the burn time on this project was just kind of toing and froing, waiting to get content. That's awesome. All right, so hopefully everybody's really delighted with the marketplace. The other teams in Xero have been doing a few bits and pieces as well. Not a lot to report over the last few weeks, but two things we did want to call out, Sid. Obviously, being based in the US, you're not an expert in Australian payroll, but that was one thing we wanted to flag just for developers anywhere. Is that the new GL integration for the Australian payroll product has changed how sort of data will be going into the Xero accounting product from the payroll application, which means that no longer will be going in as an invoice. It's now going in as journals. And so that was one thing we wanted to call out for any reporting type of applications who might be sort of expecting to find the payroll sort of transactions in that invoice. So just watch out for journals instead. But if that's something that you're struggling with finding, do hit us up at api@xero.com and we'll help you out. Now, this is one, Sid, you've been asking about a few times. You're super keen to check out some new reports. So do you want to tell us about that?
So I think there's a lot of interest in having additional reports available. I know that some of our partners do things where they pull the reporting data, and having even more robust features is something that they're very interested in hearing more about. So where do we stand with V2 at this point, Ronan?
Yeah, so the reporting team have been rolling out the new styles of reports on a new reporting platform, and so we've got quite a few aged reports already out there. There's a new account transaction report and a new depreciation report, and that most customers have access to now within the application. So what we're doing is we're waiting for sort of maybe another sort of 3 or 4 cycles of additional reports to be published, right through to things like P&L and trial balance on the new reporting platform. And then what we'll do is we'll start looking at implementing that in the API as well. I think what's really interesting about the new reporting framework is its customization and just the flexibility that you have with that new reporting framework. I guess on the API side, though, it's going to take a little bit of homework for us to find a really good way to give everybody what they're after from that framework as well, given that it is quite customizable. But yeah, so we're almost at a point where we're going to start taking requests and feedback based on what's in the app and sort of see what developers are after in terms of implementing that in the API as well.
That sounds great.
Cool. All right. API releases, been a few. Adam.
Cool. Thanks, Ronan. Yeah, well, really a bit of a quiet month for us release-wise. After we did 8 in July, only a couple of small ones in August, which is I've got the tumbleweeds up there filling up the space.
Yeah. But while the core API team have been busy with some other background tasks, we did have a launch of the US payroll API, so that was pretty good from the payroll team. Sid, you're US based, you've been involved with that. You wanted to give a shout out to somebody?
Yeah, we were really excited to get US payroll API out, and we actually reached out to a few of our partners to do some beta testing, and one of them, Deputy, was so excited they just went ahead and did an integration to not just Australian payroll but to US payroll, and they were able to have that ready for XeroCon. So they were the first ones out the gate and were very kind in providing feedback on the API, so a shout out to them.
Awesome. And so payroll API is open for business?
Yep, absolutely. We want to get your feedback. I know there's a few pieces that are missing. They are coming, but a lot of the main functionality you'll find in the US payroll API. I believe things around time off and leave balances, those things are still need to be exposed, but we're going to get there soon enough.
Cool. So for basic use cases, well, not that it's a very basic type of application, but sort of rostering, timesheeting, and all that kind of just general HR sort of applications that want to sync employee data. That's all available right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that does time tracking for employees, as well as if you just need employee data for some sort of HR application, those are going to be great candidates for partnerships.
Fantastic. Cool. All right. So at least one team's been busy.
Well, we've been busy, but yeah, just haven't quite got things out the door yet. But so a couple of things we did get out. You can now add a default sales account and a default purchase account on your contacts. That's a fairly new attribute in Xero, so we've added that to the API. And a couple of small bug fixes. A couple of people were having problems updating their apps in the developer center if they didn't have a callback domain, so that's now been fixed. And some extra precision that was getting used in some line amount calculations. We've done some fine tuning around that, so it should be behaving correctly. Some of the other stuff that we have been working on, as I said last month, tracking categories, so being able to create and update tracking categories via the API. I know it's a popular one, and hopefully we'll get that out soon. Looking to expose a new files API, and so a lot of work's gone into that already. and that's around using the file inbox in Xero. So we can already attach files to invoices and credit notes and all those different document types, but we're opening it up so you can use that files inbox, being able to both put files in there and retrieve files from there. And we've also been working on contact groups. Another one I know people are going to be probably pretty excited about. So two things: a new contact groups endpoint, so you can create contact groups and also see which contacts are in which contact groups, and also extending the contacts endpoint, so you'll be able to sort of associate and disassociate contacts with groups that way as well. So you'll have two options really of associating contacts with groups.
Awesome.
And a couple of other minor ones on the horizon. We'll be adding the default tracking categories on the contacts, so just like in the default account codes, there'll be tracking categories as well. Fine-tune some of the rounding around when discounts are being used. So there's a few people out there that have been getting some sort of 400s on some edge cases when they're using discounts. So we'll hopefully get a fix out for that today, which will be good. And we're enhancing the profit and loss report to now be able to filter by two tracking categories. So if people have got two tracking categories set up in Xero, you'll be able to use both. Whereas currently you can only choose one or the other. So
gotcha.
That'll be quite exciting as well.
Awesome, cool. Just on defaults, because I know sometimes developers have a few questions on this, so I thought I might sort of remind this. So on contacts, particularly I think it's contacts, you can set default values, but within the API world, we don't, when you're creating an invoice or something like that, we don't actually assume any defaults. So you need to, ideally, if you've got say a default value on a contact, say for example, the tracking category on a contact, you do need to read that off the contact and then explicitly specify that on the invoice that you're creating or credit note or whatever it is. Because from our point of view, defaults are kind of UI helpers in the app, and they're just kind of like a piece of data that you read and then use yourself within the API. So we never assume defaults in the API because we expect people to explicitly state them. Just a quick advertisement from me on defaults. All right.
Good point. And so that just comes up to what's next after that on the horizon. So still pretty familiar with this slide now. So looking to get purchase orders done, and as well as exposing the history and notes from all the various sort of document types, and also being able to sort of create notes as well against things like invoices and credit notes, and more wrapper libraries as well. So
so we're currently on the hunt for a good PHP developer. We already have a bad PHP developer, which is me, who wrote the original basic PHP wrapper, but we're looking for somebody to take it to the next level. So if anybody's got any ideas, let us know through any of the many ways of communicating, social, online, even email. We'll accept suggestions from, so do please get in touch. Speaking of getting in touch, so the big events last week was our developer day in Sydney, and also XeroCon Australia, which took place the two following days in Sydney as well. So Developer Day 2014 was over in Sydney, over 300 attendees. It was fantastic to see so many people in person. It was a full day of content, primarily not Xero. It was content from people in the startup scene. Matt Barry, founder of freelancer.com, was kind enough to jump in for a talk about his journey from startup to listing on the Australian stock market. Had our friends at Rackspace talking about Docker and some ways you can use some new tools to scale development. And a really useful partner panel as well from not just add-on partners, but also accountants and bookkeepers and cloud integrators based in Australia to give some of our partners insights into how you can actually sell to our customer base. So it's super useful. We'll ping out the links to the blog post after this on the Hangout board. But I guess the main slide was, well, obviously the main slide was the one that I presented.
Of course.
That's pretty obvious. So at XeroCon, at Developer Days, always really useful to give people just a general steer on what we're working on over the next while. And that's what I call this as my honesty slide. So I present two versions at Developer Day. I present the one we promised last year and the one that we're promising for the next 12 months. So this one is what we're looking to deliver over the next year or so. So we've got the files, as I mentioned, underway. Purchase orders is something that we want to work on after that. Inventory and quotes are two sort of redevelopments that are happening within the main team, and they're going to be building internal APIs, which we'll look to leverage as well as soon as they can deliver. We'll start seeing some of the features for inventory and quotes through late 2014, and sort of, it'll probably be an incremental approach. We definitely want to get the PHP SDK up and running by the end of this year as well. And payment services, there was a little bit of confusion over that term when I mentioned it at Developer Day. So this is improving anybody who's a payment service provider who's using the custom URL approach of integrating with Xero and online invoices at the moment. We just want to smooth out the manual steps to set up and configure that custom payment service in Xero. So if you're a payment service provider and you're already integrated, you'll know what that's about. History and notes is another one we talked about, and journals linking to the source documents. So at the moment you can read from the journals endpoint the sort of the journals, but sometimes it's very hard to track that back to, say, a credit note or an invoice or something like that. And I mentioned earlier reports and improvements on the V2 reporting framework. So that's something that we definitely want to get to, but as the sort of the rollout of the new reporting framework is taking place, it will probably be sort of 2015 before we get to a point where we can actually leverage all those new reports and expose them by the API. There's a team going to be working on fixed assets in Australia, and again, that's going to be an API first product implementation where they'll actually build APIs and we can leverage them pretty quickly. But that is a dependence on another team that's only just getting underway. So we're just kind of saying it's a yellow. We definitely want to deliver that as soon as we can because we want to work in tandem with that team. But it's a little less certain. And core API permissions is definitely something we want to knock off in 2015. But again, one of the things I mentioned in our developer day was that stability and performance is something that is our primary concern in terms of API, making sure that what we have today already works before we work on new features. And so sometimes we can get a little bit trumped. I guess one good example recently was implementing 4DP in the API so that we could maintain parity with what's in the application when they implemented 4 decimal places as well. And some of that other work that might just kind of push these things out, but we're always super keen to deliver them. And so those are the main highlight kind of features that we want to knock off over the next 12 months. Lots more besides that, I guess, but those are the kind of key ones that are sort of not in the API right now that sort of people seem to be hanging out for. One thing that has been asked for quite a bit is webhooks. And so we did some work on just looking at can we actually deliver webhooks within our current tech stack. And unfortunately, the answer is no for the time being. But what we do actually have is the Xero platform team are constantly improving the underlying tech stack that Xero runs on. So there's some big work that's taking place through to the end of 2014, early 2015, and we're hoping that will open up some options for webhooks and then sort of at some point in 2015. But right now we're just saying, if you're hanging out for it, unfortunately, it's not something we're going to be able to provide. But we are looking at history, the history endpoint as potentially being a good way, if you're doing some data sync operations, that maybe the history endpoint it could be quite useful for that to get all types of documents and things that have changed within an organization all in one go. Cool. Um, then just quickly to mention XeroCon Australia, which was just after Developer Day and seeing 300 developers in a room, I thought that was fantastic. And then the next 2 days was over 1,300 attendees, over 80 exhibitors as well. So fantastic to see add-on partners exhibiting from all around the world, UK, US, even event. So I just lost the audio for a second, but I think we're back online now. Yeah, so and I guess at every sort of XeroCon event, and we run 4 a year, so we've got XeroCon Australia, XeroCon New Zealand, XeroCon UK, and XeroCon USA. We do recognize a number of people in the ecosystem. We recognize bookkeepers, accountants, and some other types of partners. But the ones that I guess are close to our heart are, of course, the add-on partners. And so we recognize 3 add-on partners at XeroCon Australia. So Receipt Bank were recognized as add-on of the year for cross-industry, so horizontal application. ShareSite team were recognized as add-on partner of the year for a vertical or industry-specific add-on solution. And our friends from Float, who traveled all the way from Scotland to be at XeroCon Australia, were recognized as emerging add-on partner of the year. So it's pretty cool that at XeroCon Australia we had a London-based Receipt Bank, Float from Edinburgh, and ShareSite, who are based in Wellington, but both Receipt Bank and ShareSite also have Australian offices. It's great to see that the global ecosystem that we've built up. And congratulations to all of those. It's a little bit interesting that in Australia the ecosystem has gone to a point where they want to recognize a industry-specific add-on alongside a sort of a cross-industry add-on. But congratulations to everybody on that. Cool. All right. So Sid, just checking in with you if we've got any questions on the hotline so far.
I'm not seeing any in Google Hangouts as it stands right now.
Cool.
Yeah, I did want to mention though that that Colin, one of the founders of Float, is actually visiting in our offices here in San Francisco today. He's en route back from XeroCon Australia back to the UK, and he decided to do a little layover here and visit us here in San Francisco. So if you are in San Francisco or passing through town and you want to come by and say hi and visit our office, you're always welcome.
Cool. And that does remind me, I guess, as well, that in terms of other XeroCon dates, so we put out in our partner news last week just some save the date sort of general information that XeroCon UK is going to be in February, early February. XeroCon New Zealand is going to be in April, and we haven't set any dates for US yet, but I think what we're just saying is US spring 2015, is that right?
Yeah, late spring. We haven't nailed down the date, so we aren't giving out any exact date at this point, but I know it's planned to happen. So just make sure you're around in late spring. We'd love to have you.
Yep. Cool. And other events that are coming up as well. We've got one of our developers from the API team going to be at the I Love APIs conference in San Francisco in September. It's the Apogee conference, is that right?
Yeah. Richard's going to be out from the API team, and he's invited me along for the after party. So come and find both of us there and say hi.
Nice. So Sid only attends the after parties. Make a note of that, folks.
I'm just there for the fun.
Good stuff. All right. If we'll just do a real quick check of the comments. No questions so far. I guess that just means that we're extremely informative and covered everything. But as usual, if you do have any questions throughout the month, ping us at XeroAPI or api@xero.com, or of course our developer forums as well. We're more than happy to help you out. And finally, I guess, just to call out in terms of next Hangout. So we haven't set a date because I'm hoping to do one in a UK-friendly time. It's been a while since we did one for our friends in the UK. So we'll hopefully aim for late September for that. Might mean a late night for one or two of us, but that's okay. We're always happy to do it. And yeah, looking forward to catching you then. So that's it for us, and thank you very much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.